everybody, it's Heather here with Make It Monday. Today I thought it would be fun to show you how to make some scrunchies. So I'm going to make two today. One will be with the knot ties, where you tie it in a little bunny ear knot, and the other one will just be plain. What you need is, so this is for two scrunchies. What you'll need is a 4-inch by 10.5-inch long strip for the bunny ear knots. And then I have two strips of 4-inch by 21 to 22 inches long. I'm using velvet. This is a stretch velvet, but you can use any material you want. I've used knits, I've used cotton, whatever you want. I find that the knits and the velvets work best because they don't wrinkle as much. And the velvets are just so soft and luxurious. So velvets today, you want to start out with all your supplies and what you need. I have 8 inches of elastic. This is 1/2 inch wide, so I'm making two scrunchies, 2 pieces. All right, to begin, you just fold it in half, and it's important that as you're folding this and sewing that you're going to leave about 1.5 inches space at the top. So you're not going to sew the complete line. You're just going to start about here. Okay, so I'm going to back stitch as I'm going, and I'm sewing at about 1/4 inch allowance. And velvet likes to slip. You can see that that kind of slipped a little bit, but that's okay. As long as you have that seam secure, it's fine. Okay, so I'm leaving about 1.5 inches opening there too, and you'll see why in just a second. All right, so I'm gonna do the other piece really quickly. That will be your instant replay, so you can see real quick. Fold that in half evenly. Leave your opening. And you can see when I'm sewing, I don't cut that when I'm sewing piece to piece. That's called a chain stitch. It just makes it go faster. So I chain stitch whenever I possibly can. Okay, leave that opening there. All right, for the third piece, this is your smaller, shorter piece. This is about 10.5 to 11 inches long, depending on how long you like those little bunny ears to be. For velvet, because it's stretchy, I tend to make it on the shorter side, so this is 10.5 inches by 4 inches. And this time, depending on what kind of tip you like, I like them to be a little on the pointier side, so I'm going to show you how to do that look. But I've also seen people where they do a square off, so it's just like a, like a square, a 90-degree angle, and you just do the pivot that way. But I'll show you the curved because that's the look I like and the look my daughter likes. So on the folded side is where you begin, back stitch, and you're going to just eyeball a curve. See that curve? And this is where it takes a little bit of practice. When you get to the other end, you want to make a symmetrical curve. So do you see how I've made that little arc? I'm going to mimic that same arc on the other side. Sometimes I get pretty close, other times it's not quite. All right, I love this little tool. This is a little clipper tool, and all you do is just, has a little blade at the top. I got this at a quilting store. It's wonderful. Isn't that great? All right, now we invert, and I have these inverting tools. I've shown this before on some past videos, but it's basically a tube and a stick. I made this. You can make these. You pull it up, and then before you get to the end, you stick the stick through, and it's like magic. See that? It's inverted. Let me show you another one. And before I get it all the way pulled through, I'll stick the stick through. It's great, right? Kind of fun. All right, for this piece, I cut it in, or fold it in half, and then I'm going to cut it right at the fold. See that? And then the corner here, I just give a little trim. then you invert the same way. Get that tip out. Okay, so those will be the bunny ears that I will make on one of them. So now we have our tubes with the openings, and from here what we'll do is sew those together. So I just lay it out flat. You have your seam facing the top, and I just loop it around and make sure those line up at the top. You see how I did that? Just line it up. And the reason why we left those openings at each end is to create a small little insert where we're going to put the elastic. Once I sew these together, line up the corners, and I am making more or less a tube or a ring. Okay, I'll do an instant replay so you can see. Okay, so there's my seam, and then I like to hold on to the corners and line those up. And that just makes it so that it's not going to be twisted after you've sewn it together. You want it to be continuous all the way around. This is where sometimes you have to inch it. So also, you know, an inch or so, and then I have to kind of readjust and find those ends, line them up. The velvet's really forgiving. If you need to stretch the bottom a little or stretch the top a little to make it match up, you can do so. All right, so we have a ring with basically a little hole. And this little tool I love. This is an elastic threader. I got it on Amazon to secure it. And then from here, you can use a safety pin, but from here, it just threads right through there. You push that nose through, and then you can just get that elastic through very quickly. Okay, get to the other end, and then match up those ends. I just match the two ends up. Okay, take the threader out, line up those elastics, and I'll backstitch a couple times to make sure that's really nice and secure. Okay, so that's one. This one's almost done. Do the same thing to the next. Did I make my nails match my material today? Maybe. Okay, line it up. It's so much easier than using a safety pin. I love these little guys. They're like $1. Line those ends up. Okay, great. Okay, so we're about done. This one I'll make with the bunny ears, and this one I'll make plain. Just trimming up. When we get to this point, we have to basically sew that hole up. Now, some people will hand stitch it with a whip stitch. That takes a while. You can do it. It looks nice, no problem. But I just sew it together with my sewing machine, and it looks fine. Once it's all scrunched together and in your hair, no one can really tell. So what I do is I just take that hole. It's probably about 2 inches, maybe 3 inches wide. And I'll just fold in about 1/4 inch, just lining up that seam. See that? You can pin it, but I've made so many of these, I just kind of hold it. Start about a little bit off from the opening of the hole, just to make sure it's nice and secure. And when you're sewing this together, you want to be right on the edge, but making sure you are sewing through all the layers. So I just give a little double check, make sure all the layers are together so that you don't have any lasting holes at the end. And I'm sewing right at the edge at about 1/8 of an inch. Okay, when you get to the end of that opening, give it a little back stitch. There you go. And this one's done. Okay, so there you have just a plain scrunchie with no knot tie. Easy, right? And this looks so cute. You can wear it on your wrist, you can wear it in your hair, a bun, so fun. Okay, just a velvet scrunchie. Now to make the knot tie, do you remember when I made these earlier? From here, what you can do is insert those into the hole here that we made from the just like the other one. So when I'm sewing my two velvets together, because it's quite bulky along the two seams, I will flip one over like that. Okay, so I have the bulky seam here and a bulky seam here, so it kind of levels it out. All right, so when you have this, you're going to carefully, I like to get it going first on the machine, and then I'll insert those bunny ears. Okay, so now I'm holding it in place, the needle is in the down position, and I'm going to carefully and evenly insert those bunny ears. It gets a little tricky, but if you just work it a little bit, make sure everything lines up, take your time, go slow, it'll look fine. And if worse comes to worse, you pull out that unpicker, tell people not to bother you while you're getting it undone. Okay, so we're at this point, and now from here you take those bunny ears and you insert those in carefully, making sure those ends are folded nicely and evenly. Check underneath to make sure you're lined up. Check up here to make sure those bunny ears are even. Oh, I'm going to start over. Okay, that looks great. Underneath looks good. Everything's folded in and tucked in nicely. I'm going to go for it. Nice and slow. Over the top. Make sure you sew up that hole nice and evenly. Okay, done. Okay, so you basically have these two little ties hanging off the end. Now when I tie it, what I like to do is I go all the way around like this. Okay, and that just kind of wraps all the way around the scrunchie, and it just looks more like a knot instead of, you know, two little flaps of material falling off. Okay, let me show you again. Okay, so we were here. Okay, I'm going to wrap from underneath, tie the knot around the scrunchie, and I just do a single knot. It holds. That velvet will grab on. And then of course you have to kind of even it out and make it look symmetrical. Okay, so that's what you've learned how to make today. Here is your knot tie bunny ear scrunchie, and here is your regular scrunchie. Really easy, quick to do. Hope you've enjoyed this little tutorial on how to make a scrunchie.